Hello students, welcome to EPG Patashala. I am Dr. K.R. Ram Mohan, Associate Professor, Head Department of Anthropology, Sikkim University. Today we are going to talk a module on science and technology and society studies. This module comes in the paper Theories and Methods in Social and Cultural Anthropology. So before we start this module, let us see what are the objectives and learning outcomes. Students will be able to know about the advent of science and technology. Students will be able to visualize society studies in the domain of technology. Students will be able to explain about the impact of science and technology on society studies. Students will be able to explain the impact of westernization, industrialization, urbanization, and other forms of modernization. So, before starting this module, let us see what is a society and in particular what is Indian society. Indian society is not just a conglomeration of various ethnic, religious, linguistic, caste and regional collectivities. It is also quite complex in terms of differentiation in each one of these collectivities because of their historical and social cultural specificities. Every social group in this country, be it ethnic, be it religious, be it linguistic, unto the caste groups, have profound historical and social cultural uniqueness. So taking it further, India can be said that it is a plural society, both in the text and even in the spirit. So it is rightly characterized by its unity even in diversity. Giving the range of differences that communities have in India by various divisions among them, but still we can see that all are united for the sake of country. So a grand synthesis of cultures, religions and languages of these social groups, religious ethnic groups, belong to different castes and communities, has truly upheld its unity and cohesiveness despite various and numerous foreign invasions have taken place historically, right from Mughals before that and ended up with British colonial rule. So this diversity not only in regard of racial compositions for an anthropologist, the range of racial distinctions that we have in India is noteworthy. Religious and linguistic distinctions, but there is also patterns of living, lifestyles, land tenure systems, different occupational pursuits by these people. Sometimes we can see an occupation is associated with a caste group. A caste is identified with one particular occupation. We have different inheritance and succession laws which are in place and in practice. And also we have so much of passage de rights, cultural rights related to birth, marriage, death and other socially significant events that takes place in one's life. So the concepts of all these phenomena are changing, or they might have modified under the domains of science and technology. So with the advent of technology, various societies in the due course of time have modified their approach to every possible event in their day-to-day life. So in a sense, we can understand that there is some kind of influence from science and technology. It did not happen on its own. There is some kind of an external intervention which has creeped into their societies. With that kind of an external intervention, cultures and societies have either changed or modified according to their local needs. Earlier, it was so difficult to combat one's own customs and traditions and adopt to their own culture with their set of cultural rules and regulations. But today, if you look at as science, technology, education, industrialization, within this, what we call this whole process as globalization, that all cultures are coming to melting pot, and nowadays we have only the artificial boundaries between societies, and because of there is so much of communication, transportation has fully developed in this process of globalization. Sometimes it is also referred as westernization, has given enough comforts for life and also gives some kind of a hope for the future. So today I think no society is stopping this globalization process. Every society is looking forward and welcoming this multi-dimensional process of globalization, which comes in different layers. And every society is taking this opportunity for the future generations. Nevertheless, at large, all the societies are taking science and technology into their core domains of life. There are some societies where science and technology have not percolated. And science and technology could not elevate the well-being of their communities. So at this juncture, as students of anthropology, we should be little critical how science and technology has shaped our social life, our economic life, our culture at large. So what is the social change which is taking place towards or running towards this globalization process? So before we go into how society is changing, let us understand the very concept of what is a society or what makes a society. Can we simply say that if society means group of people, is that all? If some people are there, can we say these people are society? Will it suffice to say that? No, because society is usually to designate a members of specific in-group persons than social relations of people. So the important aspect of society is the system of relationships, the pattern and norms of interaction by which the members of society maintains a system by themselves. Thus, the relations which are not organized in a definite associations are excluded from these definitions of science or science of society or a society as a whole. Such a conception of society, however, is incomplete since unorganized personal relations that constitute the cavity of which these organizations emerge can also be ignored and we have to study these in our sociological domains. Be it in a small size, let it be, but still it needs some attention because it is a group of people, they have certain rules and regulations. So few social anthropologists says that society exists only when members know each other and possesses common interest or objects. For example, if two persons traveling on a train, the relationship of coexistence in the compartment, of being at the same place, does not constitute a society. But as soon as they come to know each other, the element of society slowly begins. In a sense, these two people have other members, they'll create common understanding, they create some common rules and regulations, they promote their own self-interest and forms a subculture. So Giddens says that the idea of reciprocal awareness is important in society. That what I can do for you, what you can do for me. And all these like-minded individuals who know and enjoy their interests or will work toward for common end. So we can see some of the definitions given by sociologists. The most and famous definition is by McIver and Page, which defines society as a system of usages and procedures, authority and mutual aid of many groupings and divisions, control of human behavior and of liberties. So we have definitions by Kuber, we have definitions by Giddings. So the term society refers to simply not just a group of people, but to the complex pattern of norms of interaction that arise among between them according to Lapierre. Now, having understood the concept of society from definitions and also generally, let us look into how the British society has influenced Indian society, or the British rulers, the colonial rulers, has brought some kind of change on Indian society or social systems. It is generally accepted that society in India was nearly stagnant at the time of British intrusion. The individual was considered subordinate and the caste was elevated, family and village panchayat. Economy was stagnant, it was archaic because it is linked with traditional occupations and there was no technological development. And people also been segregated. One group of people here, one group of people are been in kingdoms, people are here and there and all. So they lacked a national consciousness. So in these times, British have entered. So when British conquered India, alongside we could see some committed Christian missionaries which brought English education and which made a huge impact on Indian society. The British ruling governance system was introduced and the old indigenous ways of administration was dethroned. And some of the missionaries tried to convert Hindu Indians to Christianity. And British wanted to expand their education and bring changes in Indian society. Understanding the whole process of how British brought changes historically and how society has been changing, Yogendra Singh observes that the contact of Hindu tradition, Indian tradition, with the Western, the British, was of a different and radical sociological significance. It means historically it was a contact between a pre-modern and a modernizing cultural system. So we can see the continuum between pre-modernizing and modernizing cultural aspects. So the Western tradition had this scientific and technological worldview, which was basically run on rationalism, equality, egalitarian, and individual freedom. So these things might have brought into the Indian tradition. Now let us also see how science and technology have impacted Indian society apart from the British colonial administration and governance. So Indian society was being influenced by various factors like British, now science and technology. So impact of science and technology on Indian society can be seen in terms of westernization, the change in the education system, rapid growth of urbanization, where villages have become towns and towns are rapidly expanding into urban societies, urban centers. Due to this also gave a lot of industrialization, where the means of transport and communication, the networks have expanded. There is a spurge of national awakening. We should also look into how Indian society has changed due to westernization. M. N. Srinivas, famous social anthropologist, defines westernization in terms of change in Indian society, particularly due to the impact of British rule in India. So, the areas of change include technology, dressing pattern, food, and the overall changes in the entire lifestyle of the people. Some areas of Western impact which have also influenced our educational system, formulation of certain laws, development of science, new technological devices have come up, and with these there are newer forms of politicization, meaning that new political governance systems have emerged, which has also been led to urbanization. The towns are being rapidly expanding, new modes of living have come up, shrinking of the spaces, which also led to industrialization. And we could see the impact and the starting of the press, media have simultaneously come up in this entire modernization process. This is all due to an expansion of both communication and transportation, where villages are connected to these cities and people have the chance to move from one place to another freely because of technology, because of the infrastructure. So, the Western impact has brought about a new great tradition of modernization. But at this juncture, there comes the problem of conflict between the historically coming indigenous tradition of values and systems and the newly acquired, newly imposed external Western modes of tradition has entered into Indian soil. So we need to understand how this problem of conflict has arisen due to these new ways of life, because there is a conflict between indigenous and modernizing process. Let us also see the impact of urbanization and industrialization, how these two processes have influenced Indian life or Indian society at large. So a large number of industries have established in the post-independent India. It could be private, public, or both joint things, because there is a lot of economic growth. Trained people are there to becoming specialists. This also give a stable political structure, and people could control their economic means. And there could be also some changes in the family structure, from large joint families to minimizing to either nuclear families. And we could also see the impact of transportation, communication in Indian society, where new forms of cultural contacts have come, media has come, postal services have come, all types of electronic media, print media, which has been introduced by British, had a great impact on Indian societies. Along with the transportation, railways, roadways, airways, seaways, all these things have facilitated the spurt of changes in the everyday activity of life. And the notions of social notions of purity, pollution also have mitigated due to people's migration from one place to another place and due to urbanization. So these things become an important force to reckon with in Indian society. Another important social institution is education. Now, education has also changed the entire social fabric of Indian society. There are a lot of reforms have come into Indian educational system, Indian educational pattern. It was as long as Macaulay's policy of 1835 to promote English education in India started with that propagation, and many committees are there put in place to change the entire educational instruction in Indian society. It was all credit goes to under the chairmanship of Dr. S. Radhakrishnan and Dr. D. S. Kotari has put a tremendous progress in the field of education. They wanted to see all the children in the country should be educated at least at the primary level. And with this, the transportation, the other means have also facilitated the growth of education. Along with it, there is an impact of national and social awakening in Indian society. When societies are being clustered, they are not fully connected. It was the efforts of social thinkers and social reformers like Raja Ram Mohan Rai, Mahatma Gandhi, Ambedkar, and numerous social reformers have borrowed several humanistic elements from the British tradition and used them to imbibe the national feeling. Thus they could create a political consciousness. So the basic ideals of humanity, communalism, secularism, nationalism, which were rooted in Western philosophy, become very handy for these social reformers to bring at least some kind of Indian nationalism, which was a very period of historical period in the history of India, and they could bring some kind of consciousness among Indians, that the idea of India. To summarize, we have understood the basic and rudimentary concept of what is a society, what makes a society, why and how a society sustains for a longer period of time. We have also studied about what is Indian society. And Indian society comprises of numerous groups, be it ethnic, linguistic, religious, social groups, caste groups. And the distinctive feature of Indian society is, despite the diversity, there is unity. And Indian society was not fully formed until unless there was severe invasions by numerous foreign rulers which have entered Indian soil, from pre-Mughals to Mughals and Mughals to British. We have also studied about how British has influenced the Indian society, the impact of science and technology on Indian society, how it has transformed the lives of Indians, the impact of urbanization and industrialization in Indian society, and the role played by social reformers in bringing social awareness, national consciousness, national identity, to bring unity by borrowing some Western concepts. So, various factors which impacted Indian society has to be understood, because Indian society is going through change and students must know what are the factors, historical to contextual factors, which has transformed the entire social fabric of Indian life.